For as magical as Disney movies are, they've had some pretty realistic relationships. And with most of their protagonists being young, parent-child relationships are the most prominent ones. But that doesn't mean they're always healthy. Today we want to know which Disney parent-child relationships are the strongest and which ones are the most toxic. We'll be looking at biological parents, adoptive parents, and even a couple of parent figures. I'm Keefe Nossi with Wicked Binge, and this is Disney parent-child relationships, healthy to toxic. We'll be starting out with the healthiest relationships and working our way down to the most toxic. These are the healthy relationships. We're giving Lucille and Bud Robinson and Louis from Meet the Robinsons the top spot for healthiest relationship. Sometimes the healthiest relationships don't require a blood connection, and this one makes that case better than most. Throughout the whole movie, people are quick to judge Louis for his eccentricities and outright reject him, simply because he doesn't fit their perfect, nice child ideal. Lucille and Bud, on the other hand, embrace Louis for who he is, giving him not just a loving home, but all the space and resources he needs to hone and improve his engineering talents, which is the best kind of thing a parent can do. They also teach him one of the most important lessons a parent should teach their kid, that failure is just a part of the path to success, and you must keep moving forward. From the glimpse we got of the Robinson family future, it's safe to assume Louis returned that respect and affection, seeing as he still has his loving parents live with him after becoming a celebrity and having his own family.
Just get back to that science fair.
The silver and bronze medal go to two very similar relationships, that of the Archimedes and Jane Porter from Tarzan, and Maurice and Belle from Beauty and the Beast respectively. In both of these stories, we have a widower eccentric scientist raising his only daughter in a relationship of mutual love and understanding. Jane Porter follows her father in a long and likely dangerous journey to study gorillas in the jungle, not wanting to leave him alone in that important time of his career. Belle fully supports Maurice and his dream of becoming a big inventor, even when everyone else treats him like he's just insane. Conversely, in an era where most people just treat these women as damsels with pretty faces, both Professor Porter and Maurice encourage their daughters' interests and value their opinions, treating them as equal individuals, fully believing them when they say that they saw humanity in their beast-looking love interests. Belle and Maurice also showcase their deep care for each other when they're willing to sacrifice their own lives to save the other from the beast at different points in the movie.
You didn't even let me say goodbye.
The Porters only barely edge them out because of their final choice. At the end of the movie, Jane is willing to be separated from the man she loves and sacrifice her happiness to be with her father. But when he sees this, he not only encourages her to stay in the jungle, but he also sacrifices his entire scientific career and way of life to be with her there. And that makes their relationship the second healthiest parent-child relationship in the Disney canon. Fetching the fourth spot on our list is the relationship of Pongo and Perdita with the 99 Dalmatians. The kids are too young for their side of the relationship to be evaluated, but Pongo and Perdita are a couple of the best parents Disney's ever written. Not only do they take a trip through the entirety of England to save their kids, but also adopt 84 more puppies they save from Cruella's clutches. Dogs may be man's best friend, but evidently, they're also some of the best parents. On our next spot, we put one of the earliest great parent-child relationships, that of Dumbo and his mother. It should be no surprise we put these two that high, considering that the entire movie was about the love between them. Dumbo's mother risks her entire freedom to protect her baby from the people that bully him for his unique appearance. And Dumbo defies the very laws of nature and flies just because of his drive to be with her. The movie is simpler than most Disney films, but we believe the reason it stood the test of time is this great mother-son relationship at the core of its story. Building up to the sixth spot, we have Mr. and Olivia Flaversham. From The Great Mouse Detective, it's made obvious how close the bond between them is from the very first scene of the movie, where we see that Mr. Flaversham made her a handmade wooden ballerina for her birthday.
You made this just for me?
Their love for each other is tested and reaffirmed throughout the movie, as Mr. Flaversham only agrees to help with Ratigan's plan that he strongly opposes when Olivia's life is threatened, while Olivia goes on a very dangerous adventure to save him despite her young age. The next parent-child relationship we want to discuss is that of Tiana and her parents, from The Princess and the Frog. The scene of Tiana having dinner with her parents at the beginning of the movie is one of the most heartwarming scenes ever put in a Disney movie. But their deep mutual love isn't the only reason we consider this relationship great. Her parents teach Tiana the values of hard work and individual effort into achieving your dreams. Also, later in the movie, we see that Tiana's mother is worried she might be overworking herself and still wants her to be happy and connect with people to share her dreams with. And an argument could be made that the influences of her parents are what ultimately drive Tiana to succeed her goals and find love as well. Continuing with the same movie, we want next to shift our attention towards Big Daddy and Lottie. Lottie is clearly a daddy's girl, and he is also extremely fond of her, always getting her what she wants. This may sound like he has spoiled her and it's not a sign of a healthy relationship, but the reason we chose to put them this high up is her final decision. Even though she learned that the man she wanted was in love with Tiana,
Tia, you found it.
she doesn't get enraged nor entitled about it. Instead, she's happy for them and does everything she can to help them. This shows that even though Big Daddy spoils her with gifts, he took the time to teach her proper values and raise her to be a good, kind person. It's very commendable considering how children with her upbringing usually end up behaving. Right up next, we have Alcmene and Amphitryon with Hercules. Alcmene and Amphitryon are very loving parents, taking on Hercules as their son, even after witnessing his supernatural abilities and realizing his divine heritage. They do their best to protect him from their unwelcoming society all the way to adulthood. And Hercules doesn't move past them when he learns of his true nature and becomes a celebrity, as we see him sharing the glory with them and buying them a huge house. Honestly, this one is a model parent-child relationship, and the only reason we didn't put it higher on the list is because of how minor their role is in the film compared to the other relationships we already talked about. Surfing into 10th place is Nani and Lilo from Lilo and Stitch. Even though they're sisters, losing their parents caused their relationship to become more like a mother-child one, so we're counting it. Lilo and Nani care deeply for each other, and it shows all throughout the film. Nani overworks herself and basically sacrifices her own social life to be able to provide for Lilo, and often acts on her best interests, while Lilo obviously didn't want the social worker to take her away from her sister. Their relationship might be rocky at times, but that's logical considering the recent loss of their parents, so we can't really judge them for that. Next, we want to turn our attention to another Disney princess movie, and more specifically, the relationship between Rapunzel and her parents from Tangled. Although the king and queen don't have a large presence in the movie, nor even speaking dialogue, you can tell how much they love their daughter and long to see her again from their expressive animation that truly showcases the sadness in them. It's also notable that even after 18 years, they didn't give up on her and still hoped to find her again. And after spending her entire childhood with an abusive narcissist, we can imagine Rapunzel was thrilled to experience unconditional, genuine love for the first time. Next up, we want to go back in time and talk about one of the most underrated Disney relationships, that of Prince Philip and King Hubert from Sleeping Beauty. The reason we like this one so much is it's got to do with King Hubert's reaction when Philip told him he was in love with a peasant girl. Of course, that girl did end up being the princess he was betrothed to, but Hubert didn't know that. And even though he initially objected to it,
Kingdom for some nobody?
he respected his son's wishes so much, he was about to call off the arranged marriage to let him be happy. Something completely unheard of. Let's go even further back and talk about Bambi and his parents. Bambi's mother loved him deeply and taught him everything he needed to know about the forest around him so that he could one day be a good prince, eventually even giving her life for him. His father was absent from his life early on, which is pretty bad, but he did start raising him after his mother died, and he did risk his life to save Bambi from the fire near the end of the film, so we can't be too critical of him. Bambi clearly looked up to both of them and became a great leader for the forest because of their influence. The final entry for our healthy portion of the list is Jim Hawkins and his mother from Treasure Planet. Sarah Hawkins is clearly a caring mother to her son Jim. She runs a business on her own after her husband left them, and her only wish is for Jim to find a purpose and make something of himself.
Throw away your entire future.
While Silver was the one who really got him to do something with his life, Sarah was always his first believer, and the reason why Jim went on that defining adventure in the first place was because he wanted to help her with her inn and make her proud. Alright, that's it for our healthy relationships. Now we're moving on to the gray area. These relationships aren't exactly healthy, but they're also far from the worst. Our first neutral relationship is that of Duchess and the triplets from the Aristocats. It's evident that Duchess is a very good mother, as she not only takes care of her kids' basic needs, but also pushes them to expand their horizons and experiment with artistic expression. The kids are also very respectful and obedient of her wishes despite their young age. The only reason we don't consider their relationship completely healthy is Duchess's carelessness. There are multiple instances throughout the movie where she lets Marie wander off and fall into mortal danger. And if it weren't for Thomas O'Malley, not everyone would have survived their trip back home. Moving on, we want to shift our attention to Pinocchio and Geppetto. Looking at their actions, one would think they would be much higher on this list. After all, Geppetto literally wished Pinocchio into existence, and when he goes missing, Geppetto goes on an extremely dangerous journey to find him despite his old age. Similarly, Pinocchio really loves his dad and goes on the same dangerous journey, even nearly sacrificing his life to save him from a monstrous whale. What keeps them down, though, is the simple fact that had Geppetto walked Pinocchio to school, nothing would have happened. This instance of negligence just can't be overlooked. The final relationship that barely edged out of being in the healthy tier is that of Mufasa and Sarabi with Simba from The Lion King. While Mufasa and Sarabi are among the best of Disney parents, raising Simba with love and teaching him to respect everything in nature and not let his royal status get to his head, with Mufasa even giving his own life to save his son, it's Simba's side of the equation that brings this relationship down. You see, his self-imposed exile after Mufasa's death has a consequence not often discussed, and that is that he let his mother believe he was dead for at least 5 whole years.
Doesn't matter. I'm home.
And even when he did come back, he didn't seem to care about how much he hurt her. He only really returned because he fell for Nala. Following up on that is probably one of the most controversial placings on this list, that of John Silver and Jim Hawkins. Theirs is definitely a love or hate it relationship, which is why we put it right in the middle of the gray area. It does start pretty toxic, with Silver being an uncaring pirate, just being hard on the newbie for fun, and Jim being an angsty teenager hating his guts. But soon they form a strong bond through which they both evolve. Silver starts caring for Jim, seeing the potential he has and treating him like the son he never had. And Jim finally finds purpose and starts believing in himself when Silver gives him the acceptance and encouragement his actual father didn't give him. And although they do have a falling out when Jim learns Silver's true intentions, in the end, Silver does realize his newfound son is more important than the treasure and he chooses Jim over it. In return, Jim lets him off when he had the chance to arrest him for piracy. Now, this may not be one of the overall healthier father-son relationships that Disney's shown, but it's definitely one of the more realistic. The next bunch of relationships are all very similarly plagued by communication issues, starting with Mulan and her parents. Although these parents clearly show how much she means to them from the way they welcome her back when she does return safe from the war. Though they never really tried to understand her nor talk about what she wants, instead being blinded by tradition and their own preconceptions and wanting to force her into the life they want for her.
Don't worry, Father. I won't let you down.
Still, Mulan went to war so that her father wouldn't have to risk his life, so we can't remove too many points from them. The relationship between Moana's parents and Moana is nearly identical. The Sultan and Jasmine also have similar issues with their relationship, with him being more preoccupied with marrying her off to a prince to follow the law than her own happiness.
Must be married to a prince.
And she usually tends to storm off in anger instead of talking her issues out with him. Still, though, there are 2 reasons that make us consider this relationship as just neutral instead of outright toxic. First, the Sultan is driven by naivete as opposed to malicious intent or selfishness. Second, and more importantly, when he does realize Jasmine will only be happy with Aladdin, he has the courage to change the law and go against tradition for her. But probably, the relationship between Chief Powhatan and Pocahontas is the worst in the communication department. Powhatan wants to marry his daughter off to someone he thinks is suitable without her consent.
With him, you will be safe from harm.
And doesn't want to hear her input on the conflict with the Englishman. On the other hand, she dismisses his legitimate concerns about them and puts everyone in danger. In the end, they do manage to talk it out and reach a compromise, but there was a lot of unnecessary miscommunication until that happens. The next relationship we want to discuss is that of Kerchak and Kala with Tarzan. On her own, Kala probably has the best mother-son dynamic with Tarzan. The movie starts with her saving his life from an extremely violent leopard, and then both of them fill the void said leopard left in the other. Kala raises him as her own to cope with the loss of her own son, and Tarzan grows to view her as his mother even when he learns where he truly comes from. He still says that it's her he will always consider his mom. The only problem is that she's unable to contain Kerchak's contempt towards him.
Give him a chance. Kala, look at him.
And it's this contempt that holds the overall relationship way down, as Kerchak is downright abusive towards Tarzan for the majority of the film, striking constant fear in him even when he is a child. Still though, this is only a product of him being unable to accept the loss of his son, and he does realize his mistake and acknowledges Tarzan in the end, so we can't be too critical of him. Following up on that, let's discuss Wendy's family from Peter Pan. Her parents are not very good. For starters, they have a dog watching over their kids, and her father can get really angry. He also wants to cut her off from her siblings out of a petty incident. Still, in the end of the movie, he seems to be much calmer and sorry about his earlier outburst, so it could be that he just acted out in that instance, or that his wife has a way of calming him down and getting him to see reason. Now, the final relationship we want to discuss in this section is that of Kasim and Aladdin. On the surface, it looks very similar to the relationship of John Silver and Jim Hawkins that we already discussed. What makes this one worse, though, is that Kasim is Aladdin's actual biological father, and he chose to leave him behind to hunt for treasure, and he spends the entire movie manipulating Aladdin to get a key to that treasure, only realizing that he means more to him at the end. And even then, he still chooses to leave him once more. That's a wrap for our neutral relationships. Now on to the absolute worst. These are the toxic relationships of the Disney canon. In this section, we'll be analyzing the relationships from the side of the parents, since Disney doesn't tend to have toxic kids in its movies, as unrealistic as that may be. Let's start with the Atlantean King and Kida from Atlantis. This relationship has very similar communication and trust issues as seen with other Disney princess father-daughter relationships that we already discussed. What makes this one worse, though, is that it was because of the king's selfishness that Kida had to grow up without a mother.
He has been chosen, like her mother.
After so many royal father-daughter relationships, it's time to discuss a father-son one. That of Prince Charming and the king from Cinderella. The king is an immature, angry grump that only cares about his son giving him grandkids.
I want to see my grandchildren before I go.
He throws tantrums throughout the movie and constantly tries to marry him off to any woman capable of giving him more heirs, regardless of his son's wishes. If we take the sequels into account, Charming doesn't seem to really respect him either, and in truth, we don't blame him for that. One father-son relationship that's even more toxic, though, is that of Kronk and Poppy from Kronk's New Groove. This entire movie is about Kronk trying to win over his dad's acceptance, who always rejected him because he didn't have traditionally masculine interests. Even though Kronk is happy with his life, the fact that he felt compelled to create a fake one to please Poppy says a lot about the negative influence this dad had on his son. And the fact that Poppy needed to literally be told how much his attitude hurts his son in order to change.
No, Poppy, I can explain.
Makes it even worse. Closing in on the toxic fathers, we can't not discuss Jim Hawkins' relationship with his biological father. His father may have only had a minor appearance in the movie, but his presence is obviously felt in all of it and the person Jim has become. From what we see of him in the flashback, Leland Hawkins never really cared for his son, culminating in leaving him without even saying anything. This profound trauma defines Jim all throughout his life until the point Silver finally fills the void in him. Next, we'll shift focus to King Stefan, Queen Leia, and Aurora from Sleeping Beauty. The biggest problem of these parents is how overprotective they are. Right from the start, they exclude Maleficent from her christening out of fear of her, and then enrage her even more by allowing the fairies to insult her instead of pretending her exclusion was indeed a misunderstanding. Then they send Aurora off to a cottage to grow up without them, instead with the three incompetent fairies, even though they could have protected her much better if they had her close to them in the castle. Finally, for King Stefan, he is way too eager to marry her off to a prince she doesn't know and send her to live elsewhere the moment he's reunited with her, making it seem like he cares less for her as a daughter and more as an asset that he could use to secure a useful alliance with another kingdom. But as bad as this king and queen are, they don't even come close to the awfulness of Elsa and Anna's parents. These two gaslight their child daughter into fearing and hating herself, and they force her to hide from the outside world and even her own sister, locking her in her bedroom. These parents effectively ruined the childhoods of both their daughters because they preferred to listen to some dumb trolls on how to raise their children instead of trusting their own judgment. And the reveal that they died searching for ways to help Elsa doesn't do much to help them out other than keep them from falling into the absolute bottom of this list. One parent even worse though is Lady Tremaine, both towards Cinderella and her own daughters. With Cinderella, she is the textbook definition of an abusive parent, forcing her to basically be a slave to her and emotionally manipulating her in every chance she gets. She also tries to ruin her marriage out of pure spite, but she isn't even a much better mother to her own daughters either, enabling them to be entitled bullies. The relationship between Mother Gothel and Rapunzel is in a similar vein, only slightly worse. Gothel is a manipulative narcissist that takes Rapunzel from her family as a baby and then spends 18 years keeping her in solitude to use her for her own needs and guilt-tripping her into fearing the outside world and feeling obliged to stay in that prison and be grateful for it. Gothel also tries to repeatedly kill the man Rapunzel loves near the end of the movie and almost succeeds in doing that. And now, let's close off the list by addressing the worst of Disney's parents. Taking the bronze medal of toxicity is the relationship between Buck Cluck and Ace Cluck from Chicken Little. Most Disney fans hate Chicken Little, considering it Disney's worst movie, and a major reason why is the intensely problematic relationship with Buck and Ace Cluck at its center. Specifically, Buck's constant instinctive tendency to put his own social standing above his son.
It's happening again.
To the point that Ace feels like he has to win his father's love. Not acceptance, but love. The entire movie fails to convince us he even loves his son, and he only seems to acknowledge him when he gets celebrated for winning a big baseball match, only to abandon him once again the first time his status is put to the test. Not helping is the fact that he constantly boasts about being a model parent. The only reason he isn't in the bottom spot is he didn't actively try to kill his child, unlike the two parents that follow. The silver medal goes to the evil queen, and the reason is pretty simple. All she tries to do in the movie is murder her stepdaughter because of her vanity. There isn't much else to say about her because this says everything. It's basically her whole character. And without a single shred of doubt, the most toxic parent-child relationship in Disney is that of Frollo and Quasimodo from Hunchback of Notre Dame. Judge Claude Frollo basically ticks every box of toxicity the previous parents on this section showcased all at once. He kills Quasimodo's parents and tries to kill him as well, only being stopped out of fear for his own soul. He then decides to raise him, deciding he may find a way to use him in the future. Then he puts him in a tower and spends all of Quasimodo's life gaslighting him into thinking his parents abandoned him because they reviled him.
Heartless mother abandoned you as a child.
And then everyone else will also hate and fear him, and he can never interact with other people. And after Quasimodo does finally connect with one person, Frollo uses that connection to try to kill her and her whole race. And after he fails that, he tries to murder Quasimodo once again. Oh, this man is irredeemably terrible. But let us know in the comments section, what do you think is the healthiest relationship in the Disney canon? What about the most toxic? And tell us what we should cover next. Remember to hit that notification bell and binge more of our videos. But most importantly, stay wicked.